Hello, all you beautiful people out there, and welcome to my channel. Sorry about yesterday. I had a whopper of a migraine, and I generally cannot do anything when I have a migraine. So, sorry about that. But I'm here today. Anyway, um, so today I'm going back to Rabbi Tovia Singer. Um, his Let's Get Biblical, and this is volume 2. Uh, and the question that he is answering here is why did you say Christians mistranslate the scripture by saying Alma doesn't mean a virgin when their translation of virgin comes from the Septuagint's Parthenos, not the Hebrew Alma? Parthenos does mean virgin. They didn't mistranslate, but used a different text. This is pretty well known. Did you not know that? I don't think this is a very good thing to have on your page. Okay, so um he'll get into why they can't use hey Wist the Septuagint as a get out of jail free card. Okay? But just keep that in mind as we're going through this. They cannot use, and this is a fairly common Christian argument. And I don't know if I'm going to give it to most Christians, not all Christians, but most Christians probably do not know this. Okay? Most Christians probably do not know this. They probably are just taking it on good faith from their pastor because we know pastors never lie to their congregations. That's sarcasm, okay? Okay, so Toby Singer's answer is my readers will be grateful you asked this question. Your question contains some of the most commonly held misconceptions regarding Matthew's rendering the Hebrew word Alma as virgin in Matthew 123. Uh, Highlighting your question benefits those who are confused by the same mistaken presupposition that is embedded in your question. And yeah, just in case you were confused about that sarcastic remark, I do think most pastors are lying, okay? Through their goddamn teeth. Getting on with his, with the rabbi's answer. Your assertion that Matthew quoted from the Septuagint is the most repeated argument missionaries use to explain Matthew's stunning mistranslation. This well-worn response raises far more problems than it answers. Your contention that Parthenos means virgin is incorrect. The Greek word Parthenos can mean either a young woman or a virgin. Hey. So, you know, that's number one. Um, there's a far more damning, this is not a get out of jail free card. Yeah, what? They lie? Christians never lie. Yeah, right. All right. Um, Parthenos can be found in the Septuagint to describe a woman who is clearly not a virgin. For example, in Genesis 34, 2 through 4, Shechem, not going to say that word. Let's just say it's not YouTube friendly. Um, anyway, let's say Shechem violated Dinah, the daughter of Jacob. Yet the Septuagint refers to her as a Parthenos after she had been, you know what? After Shechem had done this to her, his heart desired her and he loved her. And he spoke tenderly to the damsel, and the Septuagint calls this, translates this as Parthenos. Clearly, Dinah was not a virgin after the Shechem thing, yet she was referred to as a Parthenos, the very same word the Septuagint used to translate the Hebrew word Alma in Isaiah 7:14. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, the Septuagint as it is today is not a Jewish document, but a Christian document. The original Septuagint, translated about 2,200 years ago by 72 Jewish scholars, was a Greek translation of the 5 books of Moses alone. So it didn't even have Isaiah in it. This is the argument that I am most uh, accustomed to. Okay, that it that the original Septuagint was only the 5 books of Moses. Didn't contain anything else. Okay, so keep that in mind. Um, okay, the Septuagint as we have it today, in other words, the Christian rendition, includes the prophets and the writings and is a product of the church, not the Jews. The Septuagint remains the official Old Testament of the Greek Orthodox Church, and the manuscripts that consist of our Septuagint today date to the 3rd century CE. So it's not the original Septuagint that was translated 2,200 years ago. Another important thing to understand, the fact that additional books known as the Apocrypha, which are uniquely sacred to the Roman Catholic and Orthodox Church, are found in the Septuagint should raise a red flag to those inquiring into the Jewishness of the Septuagint. Christians such as Origen and Lucian of the 3rd and 4th century CE. I have a video on Origen, edited and shaped the Septuagint that missionaries used to advance their untenable arguments against Judaism. Gee, imagine that. The Christian translation of the Septuagint is used zealously by the Church throughout history as an indispensable apologetic instrument to defend and sustain Christological alterations of the Jewish scriptures. Yeah, really whist. Okay. The church father Jerome, who was the primary translator of the Vulgate, concedes that in his day there were at least three variant Greek translations of the Bible. The edition of the 3rd century Christian theologian Origen, as well as the Egyptian recension of Hatius, I think that's how you may say his name, and the Syrian recension of Lucian. In essence, there were numerous Greek renditions of the Jewish scriptures which were revised and edited, blah, 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 meaning the Septuagint was not the only one that was floating around. So to say that they got this from the Septuagint is not kosher. Sorry, Rabbi. I just couldn't think of another way to say that. All right, moving on. This is why the Jewish people never use the Septuagint in their worship or religious studies, because it is corrupt. Imagine that. The church corrupts a text for its own ends. The ancient letter of Aristeas, which is the earliest attestation to the existence of the Septuagint, confirms that the original Septuagint, translated by rabbis more than 22 centuries ago, was of the Pentateuch alone and not the books of the prophets, including Isaiah. The Talmud states this explicitly in Tractate Megillah, and Josephus as well affirms that the Septuagint was a translation only of the Law of Moses in his preference to antiquities of the Jews. And okay, so the Catholic Church knows this because the Catholic Church loves Josephus. Why? I have no idea. Maybe it's because they lie about Josephus and say that Josephus says that Jesus rose from the dead when Josephus says no such thing. The only thing Josephus says is there was this apocryphal preacher going around called Yeshua. So, he doesn't say anything about Jesus rising from the dead or any such nonsense. Okay. Dr. F. Bruce, a preeminent professor of biblical exegesis, points out that strictly speaking, the Septuagint deals only with the Pentateuch and not the Old Testament. Hmm. So we've got people on the Christian side that says, look, people, your Septuagint thing ain't cutting it because the original Septuagint was only of the 5 books of Moses. We've got Christians saying that. Regarding your assertion that Matthew was quoting from the Septuagint, nowhere in the book of Matthew does the word Septuagint appear, or for that matter, is there any reference to a Greek translation of the Old Testament or the Tanakh. And there is good reason for this silence. The first century church was well aware that a Jewish audience would be thoroughly unimpressed by a claim that Jesus' virgin birth could only be supported by a Greek translation of the Bible. It understood that if Jews were to find the Christian message convincing, the church would have to assert that the Hebrew words of the prophet Isaiah clearly foretold Mary's virgin conception. And I think I already made a video on Isaiah 7:14. Um, when I get to it in my reading of the Bible down the line. Hey, Limited. Um, so, but I'm pretty sure I've got a video on the whole Isaiah 7:14 thing. Needless to say, needless to say, they aren't even reading, the Christians are not reading it in context. Wow, the Christians aren't reading something in context. That never happens, said she sarcastically. Anyway, but yeah, Isaiah 7:14 isn't even talking about someone 700 years in the future. Read it, people. Read it. I'm not making this stuff up. Biggest way to get somebody out of Christianity, read the Bible. It helped me tremendously. It wasn't the only thing that got me out of Christianity, but it helped me a lot, you know. So I'm all for these Christians preachers saying, "Hey, read your Bible," because it's the best way to help people out of Christianity. Noist, they only read what they want to read. They only read what they want to read. It's like, Isaiah 53. They'll say, Isaiah 53 is talking about Jesus. Um, did you read Isaiah 52 or Isaiah 54? Because that's important. Why is it important? Because it tells you exactly who the servant in Isaiah 53 is. Spoiler alert, it ain't Jesus. So, anyway, moving on. Um, okay. In Matthew 1:22 to 23, the author of the first gospel insists, sorry, that it was spoken of the Lord by the prophet, saying, "Behold, a virgin shall be with child." That is not what it says. Spoiler alert, that's not what it says. Matthew loudly makes this point that it was specifically the prophet's own words that proclaimed the virgin birth, not the words of any translator. Isaiah, of course, did not preach or write in Greek, and therefore throughout his life the word Parthenos never emerged from the lips of the prophets, or prophet, pardon. All 66 chapters of the book of Isaiah were spoken and recorded in Hebrew. Gee, imagine that. A Hebrew prophet writing Hebrew. Matthew, however, claimed that Isaiah, not a translator, declared that the Messiah would be born of a virgin. No, he did not. No such prophecy was ever uttered by the prophet. This contention becomes even more preposterous when we consider that these same missionaries who attempt to explain away Matthew's mistranslation of the Hebrew word Alma by claiming that Matthew used the Septuagint steadfastly maintain that the entire first gospel was divinely inspired. Yeah, they do. So, okay, so let's just go with these people and say that Matthew was using the author Matthew, because we don't know who wrote Matthew, okay? I don't know how many times I have to nail that home because Christians are going to say Matthew wrote Matthew, Luke wrote Luke, John wrote John, Mark wrote Mark. No, no, and no. Jesus fucking Christ. Read your own goddamn book, okay? Ugh, all right. Where was I? Oh, yeah. Um, so these these missionaries who are trying to convert Jews to Christianity are saying that whoever wrote Matthew was inspired of God. So if whoever wrote Matthew was inspired of God, why the fuck is he depending on the Septuagint? Do you see how it all falls apart? Now it sounds logical, maybe, if you've already heard all this shit and first blush it's like, yeah, okay. But then you really think about it, and I'm gonna say it again because it bears repeating. If the author of Matthew was divinely inspired, why the fuck are these missionaries saying he used a translation of the Hebrew scriptures? Oh, Dark Matter has a new book? I didn't know that. I didn't know Dark Matter wrote books. I love his cartoons, though. All right, moving on. Okay, then the rabbi goes on. Although Matthew's mistranslation of the Hebrew word Alma was recklessly crafted, it was deliberate. Of course, it was deliberate. It was not the result of a clumsy decision to quote from a corrupt Greek translation. The most casual reader of the 7th chapter of Isaiah recognizes that Isaiah 7:14 is not discussing the birth of a Messiah at all. And yeah, uh, read Isaiah 7, not just Isaiah 7:14, but Isaiah 7. Okay, so I'm not going to go through what all of what Isaiah 7 is talking about here too in depth, but basically, um, Israel at the time that Isaiah was prophesying, according to Judaism, okay, at the time, um, Isaiah 7 was being prophesied according to Judaism. Um, Israel was fighting against two kingdoms. Um, I forget what the two kingdoms are off the top of my head, but I believe it was Syria and then there was another kingdom. And these two kingdoms had um, gotten together to beat up on little old Israel. Okay. Okay. So that's the setting of Isaiah 7. And I think it was King Ahab. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I don't have Isaiah 7 right in front of me, but I believe that it was Ahab. Went to Isaiah because he was worried about Israel, about the kingdom of Israel. And Isaiah said, "Don't worry, because God has told me that this lady is with child." Now, what does this lady mean? And I'm not trying to make a remedial English lesson on you, but this lady means that there's a woman right there that he's pointing to who's already pregnant. This lady, he says, is already pregnant. And it's going to be a boy. And before the kid knows to reject the wrong and choose the right, the kingdoms of the two kings that you dread will be laid waste. That is um that's what Isaiah 7's about. Okay? So let's think about this. Let's think about this. Forgetting the little English lesson we had earlier about this lady. Okay? What were the two kingdoms that Israel dreaded in first century Judea? Hmm. There weren't two kingdoms that Judea dreaded in the first century CE. There was only one empire, and that empire was Rome. So it doesn't even work out historically. Like I said, people don't read their Bibles. You'd have a whole lot more people exiting Christianity if they did. Um, alrighty. So I think that's where I'm gonna stop for today. I might be on later on today to make up for yesterday. I don't know yet. Um, but at any rate, good news. They have funded the government for 45 more days. So, you know, mm, that's all I'm going to say about politics because I'm not a politics channel. But yeah, seems like Kevin McCarthy finally grew a spine. If you're not American, this isn't going to make much sense to you. Okay. Um, but anyway, so thank you for coming by. Please um, hit the like button, press the subscribe button, pet the algorithm by leaving a comment, and yeah, like I said, I may be on later on today, I may not, and so have fun. And remember, this is the one life you're ever going to get. Enjoy it. And that does not mean be hedonistic. Not that I'm going to judge you if you are a hedon. Okay, hedonistic. I'm not going to judge you. But, have fun. Don't worry about what the Christians say because the Christians are full of it. And I will see you later. Alrighty. Bye bye.